The crystal glass was already at his lips when I said it. Your brother just poisoned your wine. The words left my mouth before my brain could catch up, before fear could stop me, before common sense could remind me that whispering warnings to Italian mafia bosses during formal toasts was an excellent way to end up dead. Luca Moretti froze, his hand suspended midair, the Barolo catching candlelight like liquid rubies. Around us, the private dining room of Il Regno hummed with the low frequency of wealth and power. Silk suits, diamond cufflinks, conversations conducted in careful Italian that danced around business better left unspoken. I stood there with my server's tray pressed against my ribs, heart hammering so hard I thought everyone could hear it. His eyes found mine, dark, calculating. The kind of eyes that had watched men die and felt nothing. What did you say? His voice was soft, deadly soft. Hey beautiful souls, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive deeper into this absolutely insane story, I need to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And listen, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because the story you're about to hear is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Now, let's get into it. The man beside him, his brother Marco, smiled. It was the smile of a snake that had just swallowed a rat whole. She said nothing, Fratello, just a nervous server. You know how they get around important men. Marco's hand rested casually on Luca's shoulder, fraternal, affectionate. The hand of someone who'd just tried to murder his own blood. But I'd seen it. 30 minutes earlier, my shift at Il Regno had been perfectly ordinary. I'd been working there for 6 months, long enough to recognize the regulars, short enough that I was still invisible to most of them. That's how I preferred it. Invisible meant safe. Invisible meant tips without complications. Il Regno wasn't just any restaurant. It was the restaurant. The kind of place where Chicago's power brokers made deals over ossobuco, where politicians rubbed elbows with men whose business cards never quite explained what they actually did. The kind of place where you learned quickly not to ask questions, not to listen too carefully, not to see things you weren't supposed to see. I was good at being invisible. Until tonight. The evening had started normally enough. I'd arrived at 4 to help with prep, tying my hair back in the regulation bun, smoothing my black server's uniform, checking that my apron was spotless. Marco, the floor manager, no relation to the Moretti brothers, just unfortunate name coincidence, had assigned me to the private dining room upstairs. VIP party, he'd said, not meeting my eyes. 8 guests. They've pre-ordered everything. Your job is to pour wine, clear plates, and be invisible. Can you do that? I've been doing it for 6 months, Marco. These guests are different. He'd finally looked at me, and there was something in his expression I couldn't read. Warning, maybe, or fear. They're very particular about their privacy. No small talk, no questions. You see nothing, you hear nothing, you say nothing. Understood? Crystal clear. Good. Because the tip on this party could be your rent for the month, but only if you follow the rules. I'd followed servers carrying trays of antipasti up the narrow stairs to the private room, a space I'd only been in twice before. It was beautiful in that understated way that screamed money. Exposed brick walls, a single long table set with crystal and silver, candlelight making everything glow like a Renaissance painting. The guests had arrived in groups, expensive suits, careful handshakes, conversations that died when I entered the room and resumed when I left. I poured wine, cleared plates, refilled water glasses, and practiced my invisibility. That's when I'd noticed him. Luca Moretti sat at the head of the table like a king holding court. Mid-30s, Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. But it wasn't his looks that caught my attention. It was the way everyone else deferred to him. The way conversations flowed around him like water around a stone. The way even the most powerful-looking men at that table waited for his nod before they spoke. And beside him sat his brother. I knew Marco Moretti by reputation only. The whispers in the kitchen said the brothers ran Chicago's Italian operations together, Luca as the strategist, the face, the diplomat, and Marco as the enforcer, the one who handled the dirty work. They were a unit, inseparable, the perfect partnership. Except something felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Just a feeling. The kind of instinct you develop when you've spent years reading rooms, reading people, surviving on tips and body language. Marco smiled too much, laughed too loud at his brother's jokes, touched Luca's shoulder just a fraction too often, like he was trying to convince everyone, including himself, that everything was fine. And every time Luca looked away, Marco's smile would slip. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to see something cold and hungry underneath. Around 9:30, Marco had called me over. "We need the 2015 Barolo," he'd said, not quite meeting my eyes. "The one from the private collection. Bottom shelf, third rack, right side. You can't miss it." The wine cellar at Il Regno was part vault, part museum. Temperature controlled, humidity monitored, housing bottles that cost more than I made in a year. I descended the narrow stairs, pushed through the heavy door, and found myself surrounded by floor-to-ceiling racks of wine that glowed like jewels in the soft lighting. Third rack, right side, bottom shelf. I'd crouched down, fingers brushing over labels until I found it. The 2015 Barolo, exactly where Marco said it would be. I'd reached for it when I heard the voices. Low, urgent, speaking rapid Italian from somewhere deeper in the cellar. I should have announced myself. Should have cleared my throat. Made my presence known like a professional. Should have grabbed the bottle and left immediately. Instead, I froze. The voice was Marco's. I recognized it even through the distortion of distance and the racks between us. And he was speaking to someone on the phone, his tone nothing like the jovial brother I'd seen upstairs. "È fatto. Il veleno and il vino." My Italian was limited, pieced together from 6 months of working in an Italian restaurant and a semester of language classes I'd taken in college before dropping out. But those words I understood. It's done. The poison is in the wine. My heart stopped. Il fratellone, the big brother. Stasera è finita. Tonight it ends. I pressed myself against the wine rack, barely breathing, as Marco continued. He mentioned dates, times, something about inheritance and the family business. Something about finally taking what should have been his from the beginning. And then he said Luca's name. Not with affection, not with brotherly love, with the kind of hatred that only family can truly perfect, the kind that's been fermenting for years in the dark, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. My hand shook as I grabbed the Barolo. The bottle felt impossibly heavy, like it contained not wine, but liquid death. Because that's what it was, wasn't it? This bottle, specifically requested, specifically positioned where I'd find it easily. This was the delivery mechanism. Marco's footsteps echoed closer. I heard him ending his phone call, heard the click of expensive shoes on concrete. If he found me here, if he knew I'd heard, I moved fast, grabbed the bottle and sprinted for the stairs, taking them 2 at a time, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. Behind me, I heard Marco emerge from deeper in the cellar, heard him pause. "Hello? Someone there?" I didn't answer, just kept climbing until I burst back into the restaurant's main floor, gasping for breath, clutching the bottle like it might explode. Think, Sophia. Think. I could run, clock out, claim I was sick, disappear into the Chicago night. Let whatever was going to happen happen without me. It wasn't my problem. These people weren't my friends. Luca Moretti was a criminal. Everyone knew it, even if no one said it out loud. Maybe he deserved what his brother was planning. But murder is murder. And staying silent makes you complicit. My father's voice echoed in my head. The last conversation we'd had before the cancer took him 6 months ago. We'd been talking about his treatment, about the experimental drugs that might save him but would bankrupt us. I'd been trying to convince him to take them anyway, to let me worry about the money. Some things you can't put a price on, Soph, he'd said, his hand trembling in mine. Your integrity is one of them. The moment you compromise on what's right, even for good reasons, you lose a piece of yourself you can never get back. He'd died 2 weeks later, and I'd been carrying those words ever since, trying to live up to them, trying to be the person he'd raised me to be, even when it would be so much easier not to. I checked the bottle carefully. No visible tampering. The cork looked original, the seal unbroken. Whatever poison Marco had used, it was already inside. Injected through the cork, maybe, or added when the bottle was first opened and then resealed. I didn't know. Didn't matter. What mattered was that in about 3 minutes, I was going to walk upstairs and serve this wine to a table of powerful men. And if I said nothing, Luca Moretti would drink poison and die. Probably not immediately. That would be too obvious. But over the course of the evening, or maybe after he left, sudden heart attack, tragic but not suspicious, and Marco would get everything. My hands were still shaking as I climbed back up to the private dining room. The dinner was winding down. Dessert had been cleared. This was the final pour, the toast, the closing ceremony before everyone left. Marco smiled when he saw me. Ah, perfect timing. The Barolo. I set the bottle on the serving cart, my mind racing. There had to be a way to warn Luca without getting myself killed in the process. These were dangerous men. Men who made problems disappear. If I accused Marco publicly and was wrong, I'd be the one disappearing. But I wasn't wrong. I'd heard him. Heard the cold certainty in his voice when he talked about his brother's death like it was already accomplished. I opened the bottle with careful precision, letting it breathe for exactly 60 seconds like I'd been trained. Poured a small amount into a fresh glass for Luca to approve. Watched as he lifted it, examined the color, inhaled the bouquet. This was it. The moment. If I was going to speak, it had to be now. Luca raised the glass to his lips, and I leaned in close enough that only he could hear me. Your brother just poisoned your wine. Now we were here. In this moment. With Luca frozen, Marco smiling his snake smile, and me standing between them with my heart threatening to hammer through my chest. What did you say? Luca repeated, his voice still soft, still deadly. Your brother poisoned your wine, I said again, louder this time. My voice shook but didn't break. 30 minutes ago in the wine cellar, I heard him on the phone. He said, "È fatto. Il veleno e nel vino." It's done. The poison is in the wine. He was talking about you. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the ambient noise from downstairs seemed to fade away, leaving just the three of us suspended in this terrible moment. Luca set the glass down slowly, carefully, like it might explode. Then he stood. Not quickly, not with any visible emotion. Just a smooth, controlled rise that somehow made the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. Marco, he said quietly, is this true? Marco laughed. It was too loud, too forced. This is insane. The girl is clearly delusional, probably hoping for a reward, making up wild stories to. I asked you a question. Luca's voice cut through his brother's protest like a knife. Is what she said true? Of course not. I don't know what she thinks she heard. But, everyone out! The command was soft, but absolute. The other guests, 6 men I'd barely noticed through my panic, stood immediately. Chairs scraped, napkins dropped. Expensive shoes carried expensive people toward the exit with practiced efficiency. They knew better than to question, knew better than to linger. Within 30 seconds, the room was empty except for Luca, Marco, and me. You too, Marco said, turning to me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. This is a family matter. Private. She stays. Luca moved around the table with deliberate slowness, each step measured and purposeful. She's the one making the accusation. She should be here to defend it. Luca, be reasonable. She's just a server. She doesn't understand what she's saying. Then explain it to me. Luca stopped directly in front of his brother. Explain why a server I've never spoken to would risk her job and possibly her life to make up a story about you poisoning my wine. What's her motivation, Marco? What does she gain? I don't know. Maybe she's working for Castellano. Maybe she's trying to drive a wedge between us. Maybe she's telling the truth. Luca turned to me, and the intensity of his gaze made my breath catch. You. What's your name? Isabella. The lie came automatically. Never give powerful men your real name. That was rule number 1. Isabella Rossi. Isabella Rossi. He tasted the name, seemed to find it wanting, but didn't push. Tell me exactly what you heard. Word for word. So I did. Described going down to the wine cellar, finding the bottle, hearing Marco's voice from deeper in the vault. Repeated the Italian phrases I'd caught. Admitted my language skills were limited, but I understood enough. Told him about the phone call, the hatred in Marco's voice, the way he'd said Luca's name like a curse. Luca listened without interruption. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he turned back to his brother. Prove her wrong. What? If she's lying, if this is all some elaborate scheme, then the wine is fine. Luca picked up the glass, held it out to Marco. So drink it. Prove her wrong. The silence that followed was deafening. Marco stared at the glass, at the dark red liquid that suddenly looked less like wine and more like blood. His hand trembled just slightly as he reached for it. This is ridiculous, he said, but his voice had lost its confident edge. You'd trust the word of a server over your own brother? I'm not trusting anyone. I'm testing a hypothesis. Luca's expression was carved from ice. If the wine is poisoned, you won't drink it. If it's not, you will. Simple. I don't need to prove anything to you. Then you won't mind drinking it. Marco's fingers closed around the stem. He lifted it halfway to his lips, and I could see his mind working, calculating odds, weighing options. His face cycled through emotions, fury, fear, resignation, before settling on something carefully blank. You know what? Marco set the glass down with exaggerated care. I'm allergic to sulfites. You know this, Luca. I can't drink red wine without getting sick. Since when? Since always. You've seen me stick to white wines for years. I've seen you drink Barolo with me dozens of times. Luca's voice was still soft, but there was steel underneath it now. Try again. I developed the allergy recently, last few months. Convenient timing. Jesus Christ, Luca! Marco's composure finally cracked. This is insane. You're going to throw away 34 years of brotherhood because some waitress told you a story. I'm asking you to drink a glass of wine. If that's enough to make you this defensive, that tells me everything I need to know. The tension in the room was suffocating. I stood frozen by the serving cart, watching two brothers face off, watching years of resentment and rivalry finally rise to the surface like poison. Marco's hand moved toward his jacket. Luca moved faster. The gun I hadn't known he was carrying appeared like magic, already aimed at Marco's chest before his brother's weapon had fully cleared the jacket. They stood frozen, separated by 3 feet and a lifetime of resentment, both armed, both ready to kill. Don't, Luca said softly. Whatever you're reaching for, don't. You're going to shoot me? Your own brother? If you pull that gun, yes, without hesitation. Marco's hand stopped moving. For a long moment, neither of them breathed. Then Marco laughed. It was an ugly, broken sound. You know what the worst part is? His voice was thick with emotion. I didn't even want to kill you. Not at first. I just wanted you to see me, to acknowledge that I could have been just as good, just as capable. But no, it was always Luca this, Luca that. The prodigy, the heir, the golden son who could do no wrong. So you decided to murder me? I decided to take what should have been mine from the beginning. Marco's composure shattered completely. I'm the eldest. Luca. By tradition, by right, the family business should have gone to me when father died. But he gave it to you instead. Do you know what that felt like? Being passed over for my younger brother because father thought I was too impulsive, too emotional, not calculating enough? Father was right. The words hung in the air like a slap. You want to know why he chose me? Luca continued, his voice still eerily calm despite the gun in his hand. Because I would never poison my own brother over hurt feelings. Because I understand that power isn't about ego or pride, it's about responsibility. Father knew you'd burn everything to the ground within a year just to prove you deserved it. Then maybe everything deserves to burn. Marco's hand moved again, faster this time, pulling the gun from his jacket. 2 shots cracked through the room simultaneously. I screamed, dropping to the floor, hands over my head as the world exploded into gunfire and the sharp smell of cordite. Glass shattered somewhere behind me. A chair toppled over with a crash that seemed impossibly loud in the aftermath. When the ringing in my ears finally subsided enough to hear, I looked up. Marco was on the ground, clutching his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers in steady pulses. His gun lay 3 feet away where it had fallen. He was conscious, gasping, his face twisted in pain and fury. Luca stood exactly where he'd been, untouched. Marco's shot had gone wide, panic destroying his aim. You missed, Luca said flatly. He walked forward, kicked Marco's gun away, then crouched beside his brother. You had one chance, Marco, one perfect opportunity. And you missed because in the moment that mattered, you hesitated, just like you've hesitated your entire life. Then finish it. Marco's voice was thick with pain. Kill me. Prove father right about both of us. Show everyone you're the monster he made you. No. Luca stood, holstering his weapon in one smooth motion. You're going to live. You're going to recover in a very comfortable private medical facility that I own. With guards. With doctors. With every luxury except freedom. He pulled out his phone, pressed a single button. Franco. Private room at Il Regno. Situation contained. Send the medical team and cleanup crew. Quietly. Within seconds, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Multiple pairs, moving with military precision. 4 men entered the room. They took in the scene. Marco bleeding on the floor. Luca standing over him. Me crouched by the overturned chair, and moved into action without a word. 2 of them produced a medical kit, began working on Marco's shoulder with practiced efficiency. The other 2 started collecting evidence, Marco's gun, shell casings, and the wine glass that had started everything. Luca turned to me. I was still on the floor, knees pulled to my chest, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. I'd just watched two brothers try to kill each other. I'd confessed to overhearing a murder plot. I'd inserted myself into Mafia business in a way that made me a witness. A loose end. A problem that men like Luca Moretti solved with shallow graves and concrete shoes. Stand up, Isabella Rossi. His voice had gentled fractionally. You're in shock, but you're safe now. Safe. The word felt absurd. But I stood anyway, legs trembling like a newborn foal's, and met his gaze. What happens to me now? Something flickered in his dark eyes. Calculation, yes, but something else too. Respect, maybe, or curiosity. That depends. Was Isabella Rossi your real name? No. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Smart girl. What's your actual name? I hesitated. Every instinct screamed not to give him that information, not to hand over something he could use to find my apartment, my life, everything I'd worked so hard to build from nothing. But he'd already proven he could find out anything he wanted about me. Lying would just delay the inevitable and make him distrust me. Sophia. Sophia Greco. Sophia Greco. He rolled the name around like wine, tasting it. And what do you think happens to people who overhear Moretti family secrets? Sophia? My throat closed around the words, but I forced them out. They disappear. Usually, yes. He moved closer, each step deliberate and controlled. But you're not usual. You had every opportunity to stay silent, to let Marco's plan succeed, to walk away clean. Instead, you risked your life to save mine. That's not the action of someone who makes good decisions. No, I agreed, voice shaking. It's really not. It's the action of someone brave. Or stupid. I haven't decided which yet. He stopped inches away from me, close enough that I could smell expensive cologne mixed with gunpowder. But either way, you're now under my protection. Officially. Marco had accomplices, people who helped him acquire the poison, who knew about the plan. They'll want you dead as much as they wanted me dead. Maybe more. Since you're the one who ruined everything. The words settled over me like a death sentence. So I saved your life, and now I'm a target. Welcome to my world. His expression was unreadable. But I protect what's mine, and you just became mine, whether you like it or not. The possessiveness in those words should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something else entirely. Something warm and dangerous that I had no name for. What does that mean exactly? Your protection? It means, from this moment forward, you have people watching you. Guards you won't see but who will be there. It means you stop taking the bus home alone at night. It means if anything at all, seems wrong, you call me immediately. He pulled a card from his pocket, pressed it into my palm. His fingers were warm, steady. This is my private number. Not many people have it. Use it. I stared at the card. Simple black with silver lettering. Just a phone number, no name, no title. And if I don't want your protection? His smile was sharp as a blade. You don't get a choice, Sophia. You saved my life. That creates a debt I take seriously. More than that, you've seen too much. Heard too much. The only way to keep you safe is to keep you close. Close how? You'll continue working at Il Regno. Same shifts, same section. But you'll report to me directly now. Anything unusual? Any suspicious customers? Any conversations you happen to overhear? I want to know about it. You want me to spy for you? I want you to survive. And right now, the best way to do that is by being useful. He gestured to his men, who had finished stabilizing Marco and were preparing to move him. Marco's arrest will be handled quietly. Heart attack, officially. He'll recover in private, be tried in private, and spend the rest of his life in a very comfortable prison that doesn't officially exist. And his accomplices will be found, questioned, dealt with. The casualness with which he discussed violence should have horrified me. Some will talk, some won't. But eventually, I'll know everyone who was involved in this plot. And they'll know what happens when you betray the Moretti family. He walked to the door, then paused, looking back at me. Go home, Sophia. Get some rest. Tomorrow, come back to work like nothing happened. Someone will be waiting outside your building to drive you. Accept the ride. Don't argue. And don't try to run. It won't work. And it'll just make both our lives more complicated. Then he was gone, following his men as they carried Marco out through what I assumed was a back exit. The cleanup crew continued working, moving with silent efficiency to erase all evidence of what had happened here. I stood alone in the private dining room, still clutching Luca's card, trying to process everything that had just unfolded. An hour ago, I'd been a server, invisible, safe, ordinary. Now I was a witness to attempted fratricide, under the protection of one of Chicago's most dangerous men, and apparently employed as his personal spy. My father's voice echoed in my head again. Some things you can't put a price on, Soph. Your integrity is one of them. I'd done the right thing, saved a life, spoken up when staying silent would have been easier and safer, and now I had to live with the consequences. Okay, pause right there. Take a breath. Because Sophia's life just went from ordinary to absolutely insane in about 60 seconds. And trust me, this is just the beginning. But I want to know, would you have warned Luca? Or would you have stayed silent, grabbed your tips, and walked away? Drop your answer in the comments because I genuinely want to know what you would do in that situation. Now, let's see what happens next. The drive home was surreal. I'd clocked out in a daze, changed out of my uniform in the staff bathroom, and emerged onto the Chicago street expecting to catch my usual bus. Instead, a black SUV was waiting at the curb, and a man in an expensive suit opened the back door without a word. I thought about running, thought about screaming, thought about pretending I didn't see him and walking in the opposite direction. But Luca had said someone would be waiting. And Luca had also made it very clear that running wouldn't work. So I got in the car. The interior smelled like leather and money. The driver didn't speak, didn't look at me, just pulled smoothly into traffic and headed north toward my neighborhood. He knew where I lived. Of course he did. Luca probably knew everything about me by now. My address, my social security number, how much I had in my checking account. Not much. What I'd had for breakfast. Coffee. Just coffee. My apartment building looked shabbier than usual when we pulled up. Peeling paint, a broken front door that never quite latched, graffiti on the dumpster out back. The kind of place you lived when you were working 2 jobs and still barely making rent. The driver got out, opened my door, and walked me to the entrance like I was something precious that might break. Tomorrow morning, he said, his first words. 7 a.m., I'll be here. Then he was gone, and I was alone in my tiny studio apartment, staring at Luca Moretti's card like it might burst into flames. I didn't sleep that night, just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything that had happened. The wine cellar, Marco's voice, the gun, the blood. The way Luca had looked at me with those dark, assessing eyes and told me I was his now. His what? His responsibility? His property? His problem? At 6:30 a.m. my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Did you sleep? Luca's voice was unmistakable even through the phone. Deep, controlled. with that slight accent that became more pronounced on certain words. Not really. Understandable. You witnessed something traumatic. Are you injured? The adrenaline sometimes masks pain. I'm fine, just processing. Good. The car will be there in 30 minutes. Don't be late. He hung up before I could respond. I showered quickly, pulled on jeans and a sweater, stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Same face I'd had yesterday. Same dark hair that never quite did what I wanted. Same brown eyes that looked too big for my face. But everything else had changed. The SUV arrived exactly at 7. Different driver, same expensive suit, same silent efficiency. This time, we didn't go to Il Regno. We drove to the financial district, pulled up in front of a glass tower that stretched toward the sky like something out of a movie. 20th floor, the driver said. Mr. Moretti is expecting you. The elevator was the kind that made your ears pop. All glass and chrome, with buttons that glowed when you touched them. I pressed 20 and watched Chicago shrink beneath me as I rose higher and higher. The doors opened onto a reception area that looked like something from a magazine. All clean lines and expensive art. A woman behind a desk smiled at me with practiced professionalism. Miss Greco, Mr. Moretti is waiting for you, through those doors. I pushed through frosted glass doors into an office that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. Furniture that probably cost more than my car. And Luca, standing by those windows, wearing another perfectly tailored suit, looking like he belonged in this space the way kings belong in castles. Sit, he said without turning around. I sat in one of the leather chairs facing his desk, my hands folded in my lap to keep them from shaking. How much do you make at Il Regno? He asked. The question caught me off guard. What? Your salary. Tips included. How much per month? About 2,200. Maybe 2,500 on good months. He finally turned to face me and something flickered in his expression. And your rent? 1,400. Leaving you 800 for everything else. Food, utilities, transportation, student loans you're behind on. My stomach dropped. How do you? I told you. I know everything about you now. Sophia Marie Greco, 26 years old, dropped out of Northwestern after your father got sick. Been working restaurant jobs ever since, trying to pay off medical debt that will take you 15 years to clear at your current rate. He moved to his desk, pulled out a folder, slid it toward me. You're drowning, Sophia. Slowly, but drowning nonetheless. I stared at the folder, didn't open it. Why am I here? Because I'm offering you a different option. He leaned against the desk, arms crossed. You work for me directly. Officially, you're still employed at Il Regno. That gives you cover. Explains why you're in places you shouldn't be. But your real job is gathering information. Listening. Watching. Reporting back. You want me to be a spy? I want you to be my eyes and ears in places I can't go. Restaurants, events, private parties. People talk around servers. They forget you're there. You hear things. He paused. And I compensate well for valuable information. How well? 5,000 per month, plus bonuses for particularly useful intelligence, plus your medical debt cleared. All of it. By the end of the week. The room tilted slightly. 5,000 per month. My medical debt? $38,000 that had been slowly crushing me for 2 years. Just gone. Why? My voice came out barely above a whisper. Why would you do that? Because you saved my life. Because you're smart enough to recognize a murder plot, but moral enough to stop it even when it would have been safer to stay silent. Because I need people I can trust. And trust is earned through loyalty, not bought through fear. He pushed off the desk, moved closer. And because you're already involved whether you like it or not. Marco's accomplices know someone warned me. They'll be looking for who. The safest place for you is in my organization, under my protection, where I can keep you alive. He was right. I knew he was right. But everything about this felt wrong. Working for a crime boss, taking money for information, becoming complicit in whatever dark business he conducted. But what was the alternative? Go back to drowning in debt? Wait for Marco's accomplices to find me? Pretend last night never happened? I need to think about it. No. His voice was gentle but absolute. You don't have the luxury of time. Marco's people will move fast once they realize the plan failed. I need your answer now. I looked into those dark eyes and saw certainty, saw power, saw a man who was used to getting what he wanted through whatever means necessary. But I also saw the way he'd spared his brother's life when he could have killed him, saw the way he'd made sure I got home safely, saw something that might have been actual concern beneath all that calculated control. If I do this, I said slowly, I need rules. I need to know what I'm agreeing to. I won't hurt innocent people. I won't plant evidence or lie to get someone arrested. I'll watch and listen and report, but I won't actively destroy lives. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Agreed. I don't need you to be a weapon, Sophia. Just a witness. Just eyes and ears in places I can't be. I took a deep breath, let it out slowly. Then yes, I'll do it. The smile that crossed his face was brief but genuine. Good. Franco will handle your logistics, paperwork, payment structures, clean the debt. You'll start immediately. Start doing what exactly? Tonight there's a private event at the Sinclair Hotel. Art auction. Very exclusive. Several of Chicago's most prominent families will be there, including some who might have helped Marco with his plot. You'll be there as a server. Watch. Listen. Report back anything interesting. And if they recognize me from last night? They won't. You were invisible then. You'll be invisible now. That's your superpower, Sophia. You move through spaces without being noticed. Most people train their whole lives to do what you do naturally. He was right. I'd spent years perfecting the art of being invisible, of blending into backgrounds, of being present but unnoticed. Now that skill was being weaponized. One more thing, Luca said as I stood to leave. He caught my wrist gently and the contact sent electricity up my arm. Thank you. For last night. You didn't have to warn me. You probably shouldn't have. But you did anyway. And I won't forget that. His thumb brushed across my pulse point. And I wondered if he could feel how fast my heart was racing. You're welcome, I managed. Then I was in the elevator, descending back to street level, trying to process the fact that I'd just agreed to work for the Mafia. And just like that, Sophia went from invisible server to Mafia spy in less than 24 hours. I told you this story was going to be insane. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Because working for Luca Moretti means entering a world where trust is currency and betrayal is everywhere. And Sophia's about to learn just how dangerous that world really is. Let's keep going. The Sinclair Hotel was everything my apartment wasn't. Elegant, expensive, dripping with old money and new power. I arrived through the service entrance at 6 p.m., dressed in the black and white uniform that Franco had delivered to my apartment that afternoon, along with instructions, an earpiece that looked like a hearing aid, and a credit card with my name on it. For expenses, Franco had explained, cab fare, meals, whatever you need. The limit is $50,000. Try not to hit it in the first week. $50,000. On a credit card? For expenses. My previous credit limit had been $800. The art auction was set up in the hotel's grand ballroom, all crystal chandeliers and marble floors. Servers moved through the space like ghosts, carrying trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I recognized some of the guests from the private dining room last night. The older man with silver hair who'd sat at Luca's right. The woman in the crimson dress who'd barely touched her food. They didn't glance at me twice. Just like Luca had predicted, I was invisible. The earpiece crackled to life around 7. Sophia. Luca's voice in my ear, intimate and close. Can you hear me? Yes, I whispered, pretending to adjust my hair. Good. I'm watching the security feed. Second camera from the left covers your section. If you need to communicate, touch your right ear. I'll know you have something to say. For the next 2 hours, I served champagne and listened. Conversations about art, about politics, about business deals that sounded legitimate but felt wrong somehow. I heard names I recognized from news reports. Saw handshakes that looked like alliances being formed. And then, I saw him. A man in his 50s. Expensive suit. Salt and pepper hair. Standing near the Monet that was up for auction. He was talking to someone I didn't recognize, but his voice carried just enough for me to catch fragments. Unfortunate about Marco. Shocked everyone. Heart attack, they're saying, but you know what they say about stress in our business. Indeed. Still, it leaves certain opportunities available. Power vacuums don't stay empty long. I touched my right ear. I'm listening, Luca's voice said immediately. I moved closer, pretending to collect empty glasses from a nearby table. The question is whether Luca can maintain control without his brother. Marco was the enforcer, the one people feared. Luca's always been more diplomat than warrior. Perhaps that's what the family needs now. Less war. More strategy. Or perhaps it's what they need to believe they need while we position ourselves for... The conversation cut off as I got too close. The silver-haired man glanced at me, and I made myself small, invisible, just another server doing her job. But I'd heard enough. The man talking is Vincent Castellano, Luca said in my ear, confirming what I'd suspected. Marco's closest ally. Keep listening. I circulated for another hour, gathering fragments. Names of people who'd been unhappy with Luca's leadership. Suggestions that Marco's heart attack was convenient timing. Speculation about whether the Moretti family was weakening. By the time the auction ended and guests began filtering out, my head was spinning with information. I slipped out through the service entrance, found the SUV waiting exactly where Franco said it would be. But instead of a driver, Luca himself sat in the front seat. Get in. I climbed into the passenger side and he pulled into traffic without a word. We drove in the silence for several blocks before he finally spoke. You did well tonight. I just listened. You listened effectively. You positioned yourself correctly, didn't get noticed, and gathered useful intelligence. He glanced at me briefly. Vincent Castellano has been a problem for months. He thinks I'm weak, that I'm not ruthless enough to hold power. Marco's attempt to kill me just confirmed his beliefs. Is he right? About me being weak? Luca's smile was sharp. Ask my brother. Oh wait, you can't. He's in a medical facility under 24-hour guard, recovering from a gunshot wound I gave him after he tried to poison me. That's not the same as being ruthless. No. It's being strategic. Killing Marco would have started a war, would have split the family, cost lives, destabilized everything my father built. Letting him live but removing him from power sends a different message. Betray me and you lose everything. But you live to regret it. We pulled up outside my building. Luca killed the engine but didn't move to leave. Do you think I'm weak, Sophia? The question caught me off guard. Not because he asked, but because he seemed to genuinely care about my answer. I think you're smart enough to know that violence isn't always strength, and that the most dangerous people are the ones everyone underestimates. He was quiet for a moment. Then, my father used to say something similar, that the best weapon is the one your enemy never sees coming. Sounds like a smart man. He was. Also a monster. But a smart monster. Luca turned to face me fully, and in the dim light of the street lamp, his features looked softer. Less like a crime boss and more like just a man. This life I'm offering you, it's not easy. You'll see things you can't unsee. Hear things you wish you hadn't. Know things that will keep you up at night. I already can't sleep. It gets worse. Then why do it? Why run this empire if it costs so much? He looked away, out at the Chicago skyline visible between buildings. Because 200 families depend on the Morettis for their livelihood. Because my father built this over 40 years and I won't let it crumble because I was too weak to hold it. And because... He paused. Because I don't know how to be anything else. The honesty in that admission broke something inside my chest. You could walk away. Sell everything. Start over. Could you? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Could I walk away from this job, this money, this man who'd pulled me into his orbit and refused to let go? No, I admitted. I don't think I could. Then we're both trapped, just in different prisons. He got out, walked around to open my door. It was such an old-fashioned gesture that it made me smile despite everything. Tomorrow night, he said. Another event. I'll send details in the morning. And Sophia? Yes? Be careful. Vincent Castellano isn't stupid. If he suspects someone is watching him, he'll act. And he won't be as merciful as I was with Marco. The next 2 weeks established a pattern. Days at Il Regno, serving food and pretending to be normal. Nights at exclusive events, galas, auctions, private parties, where Chicago's elite gathered and I gathered their secrets. I learned who was sleeping with who owed money they couldn't pay, which businesses were fronts for money laundering, which politicians took bribes, which families were planning moves against each other. And I reported everything to Luca. We fell into a rhythm. He'd pick me up after events, and we'd drive through Chicago while I debriefed him on what I'd learned. Sometimes we'd stop for late-night coffee at a diner that stayed open until 3 a.m. Sometimes we'd just drive, talking about everything and nothing. I learned things about him that didn't match his reputation. He loved jazz music, had a degree in economics from Harvard, visited his mother's grave every Sunday, read philosophy books in Italian, hated violence but used it when necessary because that's what power required. And somewhere in those late-night drives, something shifted between us. It started small, his hand brushing mine when he handed me coffee. The way he'd smile at something I said, a genuine smile that transformed his entire face. How he'd make sure I got home safely, always waiting until I was inside before driving away. I told myself it didn't mean anything, that I was just useful to him, just an asset, just someone he needed to keep alive because I made his job easier. But then came the night Vincent Castellano made his move. Okay, we need to pause here because what happens next changes everything. And I mean, everything. Sophia's about to learn that working for the Mafia doesn't just mean gathering information. Sometimes it means becoming the target yourself. Stay with me. This is where it gets intense. It happened on a Thursday. I was working the lunch shift at Il Regno, serving pasta to tourists who'd read about us in some travel guide. Normal day. Boring even. I was thinking about the event that night. Another gallery opening where I'd be serving champagne and eavesdropping on conversations. I didn't notice the man at table 6 until he called me over. "Excuse me, miss?" He was mid-40s, unremarkable in every way. Brown hair, average build, forgettable face, the kind of person who blended into backgrounds, like me. Yes, sir? Can I get you something? Just the check, please. And he lowered his voice. A message for your employer. Every instinct I had screamed danger. I don't know what you're talking about. Luca Moretti. The name was barely above a whisper. Tell him Vincent sends his regards, and that he's made a critical mistake trusting the wrong people. My blood turned to ice. I'm just a server. I don't know. You're Isabella Rossi. Or Sofia Greco, depending on who's asking. You were in the private dining room 2 weeks ago when Marco Moretti had his unfortunate heart attack. His smile was cold. We know what you did, Miss Greco. We know what you heard. And we know you've been working for Luca ever since. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. There's a car outside, he continued conversationally. Black sedan, Jersey plates. In approximately 3 minutes, 4 men are going to walk in here. They're going to ask you to come with them quietly. You can do that, and no one else gets hurt. Or you can make a scene, and we'll have to get creative. He stood, dropped cash on the table that more than covered his bill, and walked toward the door. I had maybe 2 minutes. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Luca's number. It rang twice before he answered. Sophia? I'm in a meeting? They know. My voice came out strangled. Vincent's people. They know who I am, what I've been doing. They're coming for me, right now. The line went silent for half a second. Then, where are you? Il Regno. 4 men. The one who warned me said 3 minutes, but that was... Get to the kitchen. Back exit. There's an alley that leads to Marston Street. Run. Don't stop. I'm 10 minutes away, but Franco is closer. He's coming for you now. Luca. Run, Sophia. Right fucking now. I dropped the phone into my apron, abandoned my section, and walked as calmly as I could toward the kitchen. Every instinct screamed to run, but running would draw attention. So I walked, through the swinging doors, past the line cooks who barely glanced at me, toward the back exit that I'd used 100 times to take out trash. Behind me, I heard the front door open, heard multiple pairs of footsteps. I ran, burst through the back exit into an alley that smelled like garbage and exhaust fumes, turned left toward Marston Street like Luca had said. My feet pounded pavement, my server shoes slipping on wet concrete, my lungs burning. Behind me, the kitchen door slammed open. There! I ran faster. The alley ended at a busy street. People everywhere. Tourists, business people, normal humans living normal lives. I could scream, could cause a scene, could hope someone would help me. But these men worked for Vincent Castellano. They'd kill anyone who got in their way and disappear before police arrived. A black SUV screeched around the corner. For a horrible second, I thought it was them. Thought I'd run right into my own capture. Then the door opened and Franco leaned out. Get in! I dove into the back seat. Franco floored the accelerator before I'd even closed the door, and we fishtailed around the corner hard enough that I slammed into the opposite door. Behind us, I saw them. 4 men in dark clothing, running into the street, pulling out phones. They made me, I gasped. They know everything. I know. Boss called ahead. Franco's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. You're burned, Miss Greco. Can't go home. Can't go back to the restaurant. You're coming with me. Where? Somewhere safe. Somewhere even Vincent can't reach you. We drove for 20 minutes, taking side streets and doubling back 3 times to make sure we weren't followed. Finally pulled up to a building I'd never seen before. Nondescript. Could have been offices or apartments, or anything else. Franco led me inside, through a lobby that looked abandoned, upstairs to the 3rd floor. Unlocked a door to reveal an apartment that was clearly a safe house, clean but impersonal. Furniture that looked like it came from a catalog. No photographs, no personality, nothing that would identify whoever stayed here. "You wait here," Franco said. "Don't leave. Don't open the door for anyone except me or the boss. There's food in the kitchen, clothes in the bedroom that should fit. Shower if you need to. Boss will be here soon." Then he was gone, and I was alone. I paced the apartment like a caged animal, adrenaline still screaming through my veins. They knew. Vincent's people knew who I was, what I'd done, where I worked. Everything I'd built in the past 2 weeks. The careful invisibility, the trust I'd earned. All of it compromised in a single moment. And now I was trapped in a safe house, waiting for Luca to decide what to do with his burned asset. The door opened 40 minutes later. Luca walked in looking like he'd run the entire way. Hair disheveled, tie loosened, something wild in his eyes I'd never seen before. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into his arms. "Are you hurt?" The question came out rough, desperate, nothing like his usual controlled tone. "No, I'm fine. Franco got me out before. I should have seen this coming." He pulled back, hands on my shoulders, dark eyes searching my face like he was cataloging every detail. "Vincent's been too quiet. Should have known he was planning something." "It's not your fault." "It's absolutely my fault. I put you in the field before you were ready, before I had proper security in place, before—" He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "You could have been killed." "But I wasn't. I'm here. I'm safe." "Safe." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're burned, Sophia. They know your face, your real name, where you live. You can't go back to your apartment. Can't go back to Il Regno. Can't go back to your life." The reality of that hit me like a physical blow. My apartment, my job, the small, ordinary existence I'd built from nothing. All of it gone because I'd saved Luca's life 2 weeks ago. So what happens now? Luca was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful, controlled again. "There are options. I can relocate you. New city, new identity, enough money to start over. You'd be safe, but you'd be alone. Or," he paused, "or you stay here. With me. Under my protection. You continue working for me, but differently. From inside the organization instead of in the field." "Why would you want that?" "I'm compromised. Useless to you now." "You're not useless." His hand slid down my arms, caught my wrists, held them gently. "You're brilliant at reading people, at seeing patterns others miss, at understanding motivations and power dynamics. I don't need you serving champagne anymore, Sophia. I need you beside me, helping me see the moves before they're made." "Beside you," I repeated slowly. "Like, what? Your advisor?" "Like my partner." The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implications. "Luca, I know this is fast. I know it's not what you signed up for. But Vincent made his move today because he thinks taking you out removes my advantage. He thinks without you feeding me information, I'll be blind." Luca's grip tightened fractionally. "I'm not going to let him be right. And I'm not going to let him touch you. This isn't just about strategy for you, is it?" His expression shifted. Something vulnerable flickered across his features. "No, it's not." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Then what is it about? You want honesty?" He moved closer, and suddenly the air between us felt charged, electric. "From the moment you whispered that warning, you've been under my skin. The way you risked everything to save a stranger. The way you move through spaces like water. The way you see through all my carefully constructed walls and call me out when I'm being calculating instead of human." He released one of my wrists, brought his hand up to cup my jaw. I've spent my entire life surrounded by people who want something from me: power, money, protection, access. You're the first person in years who wanted nothing except to do the right thing. And that makes you either the most dangerous person I've ever met or the one I can finally trust. Which one am I? His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. Both. Definitely both. Then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle, wasn't careful or controlled or any of the things Luca usually was. It was desperate and claiming, his mouth crushing against mine with the force of everything unspoken between us. The fear of almost losing me. The impossible pull that had existed since that first night. The recognition that we were both trapped in orbits around each other now, unable to break free, even if we wanted to. I kissed him back just as desperately, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. Every logical part of my brain screamed that this was wrong, dangerous, exactly the kind of complication that got people killed in his world. But I didn't care. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Luca rested his forehead against mine. "Stay," he whispered. "Not because you have to, not because it's safer. Stay because you want to." I thought about my old life, the tiny apartment, the endless debt, the invisibility that had kept me safe but also kept me alone. And I thought about this new life. Dangerous, yes. Complicated, absolutely. But alive in a way I'd never been before. "I'll stay," I said, "but on one condition." "Name it." "You teach me how to protect myself. No more running. No more hiding behind guards. If I'm going to be part of this world, I need to know how to survive in it." A slow smile spread across his face. "Done. Franco can start training you tomorrow." "Not Franco." I met his gaze steadily. "You. I want you to teach me." Something heated flickered in his dark eyes. "That could be dangerous." "Everything about this is dangerous." "I mean for me." His hand slid into my hair, tilted my head back. "Spending hours alone with you. Touching you. Getting that close. I'm already having trouble keeping my hands to myself." "Then stop trying." The words came out before I could think them through. But I didn't take them back. Luca made a sound low in his throat, somewhere between a laugh and a groan. "You're going to be the death of me, Sofia Greco." "Not if I can help it. I didn't save your life just to have you die on me now." He kissed me again, softer this time, a promise instead of a claiming. "Tomorrow," he said against my lips, "we deal with Vincent. We shore up security. We make sure everyone knows that touching you means war. And tonight? Tonight, you rest. You've earned it." He stepped back reluctantly, putting careful distance between us. "I'll take the couch. You take the bedroom. And Sophia?" "Yes?" "Thank you. For trusting me. For staying. For being brave enough to whisper that warning 2 weeks ago and change both our lives forever." "Okay, beautiful souls. Are you still breathing?" Because Sophia and Luca just crossed a line there's no coming back from. But Vincent Castellano isn't done. Not by a long shot. And what happens next is going to test everything they've built together. Let's finish this story. Vincent made his next move exactly 3 days later. I was in Luca's office, my new workplace apparently, reviewing financial records that made my head spin, learning the legitimate side of the business, the parts that wouldn't send me to prison if the FBI came knocking. Franco burst in without knocking, his face grim. "Boss, we have a problem." Luca looked up from his laptop. "What kind of problem?" "The kind with a bomb attached to Miss Greco's old apartment building." My blood turned to ice. "What?" "Someone planted explosives in your former apartment," Franco said, pulling out his tablet to show us police scanner reports. "Anonymous tip called it in. Bomb squad's there now. They evacuated the whole building. Was anyone hurt? My voice came out strangled. No. The tip came early enough. But, Franco hesitated. There was a note addressed to you, left in your apartment. He showed us a photo on his tablet. Someone had broken into my old place and left a message spray-painted across the wall. Traitors burn. Vincent, Luca said flatly. This is him drawing lines, showing he can reach anyone who works for me. It's more than that. I stared at the message, my mind racing. It's theater. He evacuated the building before detonating. He doesn't actually want to kill random civilians. That would bring too much heat. He wants everyone to see what happens to people who betray him. Or work for me. Luca's jaw clenched. He's trying to make an example, show that my protection isn't enough. Then we make an example back. I turned to face him. You said Vincent thinks you're weak, that you're not ruthless enough to hold power. So prove him wrong. What do you suggest? I pulled up the information I'd been gathering for the past 3 days. Financial records, business holdings, shell companies that looked legitimate but weren't. Vincent Castellano's entire operation laid out in spreadsheets and transaction logs. We don't bomb buildings. We don't hurt civilians. We do what actually destroys men like Vincent. We take his money. I pointed to the screen. He has 3 major revenue streams. The gambling operation in Brooklyn that's technically legal but definitely isn't. The restaurant supply company that's really money laundering. And the shipping business that moves antiques that are definitely stolen goods. Luca leaned forward, studying the data. You want to hit all 3 simultaneously. I want to dismantle his entire financial infrastructure in a single night. Leave him powerless and broke. Show everyone that you don't need to plant bombs to destroy your enemies. You just need to be smarter than they are. A slow smile spread across Luca's face. Franco, call the team. We're going to need lawyers, accountants, and at least 3 different federal agencies who owe me favors. And if Vincent retaliates? Franco asked. Let him try. Luca's voice had gone cold. He came after someone under my protection. He threatened innocent people to make a point. He's crossed every line there is. Whatever happens next, he brought it on himself. The operation took exactly 1 week to plan. Federal agents I didn't want to know about raided the gambling operation on charges of racketeering. The restaurant supply company lost its business license due to health code violations that mysteriously appeared in every inspection. And the shipping company found itself under investigation for customs fraud, with enough evidence to guarantee years of legal battles. Vincent Castellano woke up one Monday morning to find his entire empire crumbling. And I watched it happen from Luca's office, tracking news reports and financial data, seeing everything I'd helped build come together. He'll know it was you, I said quietly. He'll know this was retaliation. Good. Luca stood behind me, his hands settling on my shoulders. Let him know. Let everyone know. You don't touch what's mine without consequences. That possessiveness should have bothered me, should have felt like control or ownership. Instead, it felt like safety, like someone finally giving a damn whether I lived or died. What's mine? I repeated. Is that what I am to you? His hands tightened fractionally. What do you want to be? I turned in the chair, tilted my head back to look up at him. I want to be your partner, your equal, not your possession or your responsibility or your asset. Just yours, the way you're mine. Something shifted in his expression, softened. Sofia Greco, he said, voice low and intense. You walked into my life 2 weeks ago and turned everything upside down. You saved me, challenged me, made me question everything I thought I knew about power and loyalty and trust. You're not my possession. You're the first real thing I've had in years. He pulled me to my feet, and suddenly we were standing chest to chest, sharing the same air. So yes, he continued, you're mine, and I'm yours. Completely. Whether that's smart or dangerous or absolutely insane, I don't care anymore. I kissed him, rose on my toes, and pressed my lips to his. And this time it wasn't desperate or claiming. It was a choice. A conscious decision to step fully into this new life, this dangerous world, this impossible relationship. When we broke apart, Luca smiled. Actually smiled, genuine and warm. We should probably discuss the fact that you just dismantled a major crime operation using nothing but spreadsheets and federal agencies, he said. That's not normal civilian behavior. I'm not a normal civilian anymore. No, you're really not. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The question is, what do you want to do with that? Stay behind the desk analyzing data? Or come into the field with me and put all that brilliance to use directly? I thought about it. Really thought about what I wanted from this new life. Both, I decided. I want to learn everything. The strategy, the execution, how to protect myself, how to read rooms and leverage power and survive in your world. Not as some protected asset you keep locked away, as your actual partner. That's going to take time, training. You'll need to learn things most people never even imagine. Then teach me. His smile widened. Starting tomorrow. But tonight? He glanced at his watch. Tonight we have one more thing to handle. What? Vincent Castellano knows he's been destroyed. He knows it was me, and he's going to want revenge. Luca moved to his desk, pulled something from a drawer. A gun, compact and deadly. He's cornered, which makes him desperate. Desperate men do stupid things. Like what? As if in answer, Luca's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, expression hardening. It's him. He answered on speaker. Moretti. Vincent's voice came through cold with fury. You've made a grave mistake. Have I? Seems to me I just corrected one. You came after someone under my protection, threatened innocent people. I simply responded in kind. You destroyed my business. You tried to kill me. I'd say we're not even close to even yet. Silence on the other end. Then, there's a warehouse on Pier 17. Come alone tonight at midnight. Bring the girl. We settle this like men, face to face. Or I start making more public gestures. Bigger ones. With actual casualties next time. Luca's expression didn't change. I'll be there. He hung up. You're not actually going, I said immediately. Of course I'm going. It's a trap, obviously. But it's also an opportunity. To walk into an ambush and get killed? To end this once and for all. He checked the gun, loaded it with practiced efficiency. Vincent's desperate. His organization is falling apart. This is his last play. If I don't show up, he'll keep escalating until people die. But if I do show up, I can finish this tonight. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. He specifically asked for me. And you just spent the past 3 days teaching me how to handle a gun. I'm not letting you walk into that warehouse alone. We stared at each other, both stubborn, both determined. Finally, Luca sighed. You're the most frustrating woman I've ever met. And you love it. Terrifyingly, yes. I do. He handed me a second gun. Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. And Sophia? If things go wrong, you run. You don't try to be a hero. You just run and let Franco's team clean up. Understood? Understood. This is it. Beautiful souls. The final confrontation. Sophia and Luca walking into Vincent's trap, knowing it's a trap, but going anyway because sometimes the only way out is through. Stay with me. This is going to be intense. Pier 17. At midnight looked like something from a movie. Abandoned warehouse, broken windows, The kind of place where bad things happened and nobody saw anything. Luca parked the SUV a block away. Franco and his team were already in position, hidden in the shadows, ready to move if things went sideways. "Last chance to stay in the car," Luca said. I checked my gun one more time. Not happening. We walked to the warehouse together. The door stood open. Invitation or taunt, hard to say. Inside, a single light illuminated the center of the space. Vincent Castellano stood beneath it, flanked by 4 men with weapons visible. "Moretti," he called out. "Punctual as always. And you brought your little spy. How touching." Luca's hand found mine, squeezed once, then released. We walked forward until we were maybe 20 feet from Vincent's group. "You wanted to settle this like men," Luca said calmly. "So talk. Talk." Vincent laughed. "There's nothing to talk about. You destroyed my life's work in a week, turned federal agencies against me, made me a laughingstock. There's only one way this ends. With you in prison for attempted murder. We have evidence, Vincent. Recording of you ordering the hit on me. Financial records connecting you to Marco's assassination attempt. The bomb at Sophia's apartment. All of it." Vincent's expression darkened. "Then I have nothing to lose." He raised his gun. Everything happened at once. Luca moved, pushing me behind him. Vincent fired. Glass shattered as Franco's team burst through the windows. More gunfire erupted from all sides. I hit the ground hard, ears ringing, trying to see through the chaos. Luca was returning fire, his shots precise and controlled. 2 of Vincent's men went down. Then I saw it. One of Vincent's men circling around, getting behind Luca, weapon raised. I didn't think. Didn't hesitate. Just raised my own gun and fired. The shot went wide. I was still learning. Still shaky. But it was close enough to make him turn. Close enough for Luca to spin and take him down properly. The firefight lasted maybe 30 seconds. When the smoke cleared, 3 of Vincent's men were down. The 4th had fled, and Vincent himself was on his knees, Franco's gun pressed to the back of his head. "Don't move," Franco said calmly. Luca crossed to me, helped me to my feet. His hands ran over me, checking for injuries. "You okay? You're not hit?" "I'm fine." "You?" "Fine." He pulled me against him hard, and I felt him trembling slightly. "You fired at an armed man. He was going to shoot you. You could have been killed. So could you." I pulled back, met his eyes. "We're partners, remember? That means I watch your back. Same as you watch mine." He kissed me then, hard and desperate, right there in that warehouse with Franco and his team watching and Vincent Castellano kneeling in defeat 10 feet away. When he finally released me, Luca turned to Vincent. "You're done. Completely. Your organization is dismantled. Your money is gone. And now the federal agents waiting outside are going to take you into custody for attempted murder, racketeering, and domestic terrorism. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison." "And Marco?" Vincent spat. "Your own brother? Is serving his own sentence. Family or not, betrayal has consequences." Luca's voice was cold. "You both learned that the hard way." Franco hauled Vincent to his feet and led him outside where, true to Luca's word, federal agents were waiting. And then it was over. Just like that. The threat eliminated. The danger passed. Vincent Castellano in custody and Luca's position secured. We stood in that warehouse, surrounded by broken glass and bullet casings, and the adrenaline finally crashed. "Is it always like this?" I asked quietly. "This intense?" "No. Usually it's more boring. Meetings and negotiations and financial planning." Luca pulled me close again. "But when it's intense, it's really intense. I think I can handle it." "I know you can. You just proved it." We walked out together, hand in hand, into the Chicago night. Behind us, Franco's team was already cleaning up the scene. Ahead, the city stretched out in lights and shadows, full of dangers and opportunities and the kind of life I'd never imagined for myself. But standing next to Luca Moretti, gun still warm in my pocket and his hand solid in mine, I realized something. I'd stopped being invisible, and maybe that was exactly what I needed. And that, beautiful souls, is where our story ends. Sofia Greco went from invisible server to Mafia queen in exactly 2 weeks. She saved Luca's life with 3 words whispered across a dinner table. She survived attempted murder, dismantled a criminal empire using nothing but spreadsheets, and walked into a trap beside the man she loved. Not bad for someone who started the story just trying to make rent. So here's my question for you. Would you have whispered that warning? Would you have risked everything to save a stranger? Or would you have stayed silent and kept your head down? Drop your answer in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We've got more stories like this coming your way. Dangerous men, fearless women, and the kind of choices that change everything. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for letting me tell you these stories that keep you up at night wondering, what if that was me? Until next time, stay fierce, stay fearless, and remember, sometimes the most dangerous choice is the right one. I'll see you in the next story.